Hey folks, happy Saturday! As is tradition around these parts, on Saturday I talk about an episode of a superhero animated series, and today I will be talking about the 4th episode of Batman Beyond titled Golem. If you forgot what happened in this episode, I will tell you right now. And if you want to rewatch the episode without spoilers, then I suggest you do that in the next 15 seconds before I start summarizing plot stuff. This episode is much less about Terry McGinnis or Bruce Wayne, and is more about an average schlubby teenager Terry goes to school with named Willie Watt. Willie doesn't have a fantastic life at home, as his dad is always pushing him to not be a wimp, and at school things aren't any better, as the girl he has a crush on treats him like garbage, and the guy she kinda likes treats him worse. When Willie comes home with his shirt torn, his dad encourages him to get even, no matter what it takes. So Willie steals the giant 2-story robot his dad uses on the construction site to crush the car belonging to Nelson Nash, the guy who bullied Willie, and the guy who Blade, the girl that Willie likes. Batman comes in to stop the robot, and Willie loses the headband thing that controls the robot, but some weird feedback issue happened, causing Willie to still have a connection with the robot, even though he is not wearing the headband thing anymore. Then Blade, the girl that Willie has a crush on, she asks him to the dance as a way to get back at Nelson, which only invites further bullying from Nelson. By this point, it's easy to see how Willie loses it on everyone and sends the robot to presumably kill Nelson. We don't see if he would have sent it after the girl also, but he should have with the way that she was treating him. And then Willie's dad figures out that Willie is controlling the robot, and then Willie sends the robot after his dad. Batman slays the robot, and then we get an X-Fillion ending where we see that in Juvenile Hall, Willie still has the power to control various electronics. Cue credits. So I don't actually have a problem with this series shying away from being solely focused on Bruce or Terry for an episode or two, but I don't think I liked how this episode did it. In Batman the Animated Series, we had episodes like POV, which focused heavily on some of the supporting characters of the series, with Batman as more of a background character. But that episode worked because Batman's presence very much impacted the story. When Batman is not in the scene, he's still being discussed. His actions still have an effect on the characters who we are seeing in the story. Here, there were huge significant chunks where I almost forgot that I was watching a Batman show. We have 3 scenes with Terry McGinnis, and 2 of them are quick one-liners. One in the cave where he's talking to Bruce, and one before that where Terry is talking to Nelson. Then at the dance, there's the most we see Terry in the entire episode. Other than that, the only time we ever see Batman is when he's fighting the Golem and when he's testing the camouflage feature on the suit, which it's weird that when the Golem is chasing Batman that he doesn't choose to make use of that camouflage that he was testing just 4 minutes earlier. Like I said, I don't mind when the series wants to sideline the protagonist for an episode and focus on someone else. That can give the creators time to think of something else to do with the protagonist, and it gives the story more space to go in a direction it would not have been able to have gone in if the episode had been more centered around the protagonist. But I just wish that the protagonist could still have had some kind of tangible connection to this story in the same way that Batman did in the episode POV. The story that we do get with poor Willie Watt is a sad one, but I'm not completely sold on how this story is given to us. I'm not quite sure if this episode wants Willie to be a normal kid with a crappy life to then transform into a psycho who goes crazy on the people who wronged him, or if it wants Willie to already be a little bit insane, and then what happens here just pushes him even further into insanity. Because I'm getting shades of both here, and it really needs to be one or the other. When Willie is attacking Nelson's car close to the beginning of the episode, and Batman tries to stop the Golem, Willie screams, "Leave us alone." This seems to me that he's already formed this bizarre, slightly unhealthy relationship with this big brother robot thing, and he's only just stolen the thing. Sure, he's had a crappy life, but you'd think that he wouldn't have this thing where he considers the robot to be a part of himself or whatever until at least after the headband thing is broken and it really does start responding to his mental commands. In these reviews, I've been making a point to talk about the quality of these villains and if they work in a way where you can go back and use them multiple times in what is meant to be a long-running series like this. And the idea of an emotionally damaged kid who has the ability to control a giant robot, that's not a terrible idea for a villain. And the episode ends in a way that is hinting that he will be back. But I think if this kid was going to be used again, which we know he will be, that the show would have had to have found a different way to use him, which we know it does. Because giant robots, there's nothing wrong with that, but after one episode, it would get old after a while. Compare Willie to, say, Ink or Derek Powers. Both of those characters being firmly entrenched in the corporate world, there are many different exciting ways that you can use them in different kinds of stories. But Willie, while he's not a bad character, any storyteller storyteller would be much more limited on what they could do with him because he's just a kid who is mad at the world. That may not be the best way of explaining him, but I think the fact that Willie is in about a fifth of the number of episodes that Derek Powers is in speaks volumes for which character is more viable in an ongoing series like this. Overall, this was a pretty good episode. I don't want it to sound like I disliked it. The problems I had with it don't make it a bad episode. Definitely not the best episode of the series, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. The problems I did have with it, I'm not even sure how those things could have been fixed and you still have the same kind of episode. Well, Willie acting like a psychopath, that could have been altered slightly pretty easily, I do think. Overall, a good episode. I do hope you guys liked this episode and this review. If you did, next week I will be talking about an episode of Batman the Animated Series, and the weekend after that, another episode of Batman Beyond. And if you did like this video, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back throughout next week with some other kinds of reviews, so be sure to check back in then to see what all I will be doing. Until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.